Hi, I'm Sam, and in this video, in 5 minutes, I'm going to show you how to make a ring modulator audio effect with just a few lines of JavaScript. If you find this interesting, make sure you stick around for the next part in the series where, with a few more lines of code in just 5 more minutes, I'll show you how to make a compressor audio effect as well. Cool, let's get started. To start with, let's take a quick listen to the effect that we're about to create. Here's the sound that we're starting with no effect applied to it. And now here's what it sounds like when we apply the ring modulator effect. Cool. So now let's start digging into the code. We're doing this on WavTool.com. There will be a link down in the video description. So we're going to start by opening up the code editor, starting a new file. Now let's just think a little bit about how we're going to implement this effect. So the way a ring modulator works is relatively simple. All we're doing is we're imagining a sine wave overlaid on top of our audio signal, and that sine wave is going to multiply the amplitude of the signal at each point. So when we're at a point where the sine wave is high, we're going to be keeping the volume the same. We're going to be multiplying it by 1. And when it's low, when it's down below 0, we're going to be multiplying the signal by -1 and inverting it. And when the sine wave is at 0, when it's crossing the center line, we're going to be multiplying whatever signal is at that point by 0, taking it down to the center line. So because we don't need to do any interesting stuff like looking ahead or back in time, we can just decide how loud each sample should be by looking just at that one sample. We're going to run project.map selected samples, and we're going to give it a callback that accepts two variables, sample as one argument and index as the other argument. And now if we start off by simply returning the sample, if we run this effect, it's going to do nothing to the code. We're just taking each sample in and spitting the same sample out. If we do something like multiply it by 1/2, then when we run this code, you'll notice our signal gets a lot smaller. Every sample is getting moved halfway to the 0 line. Of course, we can also do the opposite and multiply the sample by 2 if we wanted to make everything louder. But what we're here to do is to apply this sine wave as the multiplier for the amplitude of each sample. So to figure out the amplitude of a sine wave at a certain point in time within WavTool, we can use the WavTool.sine function. If we pass in the index of the current sample, this is going to generate a 1 Hertz sine wave, and it's going to give us the amplitude for this index of that 1 Hertz sine wave. If we want to bring that up to somewhere higher frequency within the audible range, we could multiply that index by 400, for example, to get a 400 Hertz sine wave. Let's take a listen to this. Cool. Now there's just one more thing that we should do to make this project complete, and that is to make this 400 a setting that the user can control. So let's call that setting frequency. Oops. And we'll assign it up here. Now we could use a number setting for this, but if we use frequency setting instead, that'll give us a reasonable set of defaults. It'll give us a range from 20 to 20,000, and it automatically gives it the title frequency, which is the title we would have given it anyway. Okay, so now let's try dialing in some different frequencies and see how they sound. Sweet. Well, there you have it. We have just created a ring modulator effect with just 2 lines of JavaScript in under 5 minutes. If you've enjoyed this video, please be sure to come back for the next video in the series where we're going to be extending this and turning it into an audio compressor. Thank you for watching.